Hey guys, how you doing? Luna here with a new video. Welcome back to the channel. Today I am really excited because we're talking about the Beatles, my favorite band of all time. More specifically about Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band release all the way back in 1967. The reason why we're talking about Sgt. Pepper's is because of a few things. First of all, I went into social media the other day, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and I was kind of researching opinions about this album because I wanted to make a video about it. And in researching opinions and comments about this album, I came across a lot of people thinking that this album is overrated, thinking that this album is not really that good. Not only that, but YouTube, the algorithm spying on me, like always, decided to recommend this Anthony Fantano video called Sgt. Pepper's is Not a 10. If you follow this channel long enough, you know that my goal is to create a community where people can just debate about music, and me participating in those debates, obviously, and all of that was inspired by Anthony Fantano, that idea, because he has a community that's so interesting and so diverse in terms of opinions. He can upload a video with this outrageous thumbnail and people actually go in there with an open mind of listening to what he's saying. I remember watching that video when it came out. I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, I don't remember, but I decided to watch the video again to have like a fresh memory on what he said about the album, and I decided to make a video on my own talking about Sgt. Pepper's and the comments that people have about Sgt. Pepper's. First of all, we have to understand that no one's really putting into question the influence or the classic status of Sgt. Pepper's. No one's saying that it's not a classic album or that it doesn't deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame of rock music. No one's saying that the album was not as influential as a lot of people say it is. People are criticizing the quality of the album. People are, questioning the strength of the songs in this record and, his status as the greatest album of all time. In my opinion, the album is a 10. In my opinion, it does deserve a perfect score, but I can definitely understand some of the arguments made against the record. For example, the first thing that Anthony Fantano says, and this is actually quite a popular opinion, is how songs like Getting Better, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, A Day in the Life are so far apart in terms of quality from songs like Good Morning, Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, When I'm 64, With and Without You. I do understand the argument that if you're gonna give, a perfect score to a record, every single song on the album needs to be great, or at the very least good. So how can I say that an album is a 10 and then immediately after say that I don't like one of the tracks from the album? Doesn't make any sense, right? But then again, if I were to say that I need to love every single one of the tracks from an album and every single musical passage and every single, detail about a record in order to give it a perfect score, no album would have a perfect score because there's nothing perfect, An album that, in my opinion, is the greatest album ever, the White Album, it still has some parts that I don't really like, especially when it comes to John Lennon. For example, a song like Savoy Truffle, I don't like that track at all, but do I want to remove it from the album? No, because in my opinion, it plays a part. It may not be a part that I like, but it's there for a reason, and without it, it kind of feels empty. I think that the same can be said about Sgt. Pepper's. That's only one of the things that Anthony said about this album, and I think the only one I agree with, the fact that the level of quality is really fluctuant in this album, and sometimes it feels like the band wasn't really at its peak game in some of these songs. However, he also said a few things that I don't really agree with, most notably what he said about the track She's Leaving Home, talking about how the narrative of the track and the overall atmosphere of the song is too dramatic and too weepy to the point where it doesn't even feel that serious. And the thing is that it's not supposed to be. It's satire, it's filled with sarcasm. It's not a serious track, so I don't really know if he actually knows this. I don't know if he was joking when he said that about the song. He didn't seem like he was joking. I think he was just completely misread the track. In my opinion, I think the track is beautiful. I love how the instrumentation plays really well into Paul McCartney's fancy, elegant style of performing. And, yes, the narrative is not really anything that interesting, but again, it's supposed to be a joke. It's not an actual, it's not an actual attempt to create a compelling and a sad narrative. That was a really weird weird take, and a lot of people were saying that in the comment section. I don't agree with that at all. I love She's Leaving Home, in my opinion. Even though the harmonies in the chorus may not be that great, I still think it's an awesome song. Honestly, Paul McCartney's performance on that is excellent. He also talked about the quality of the character Rita on the track Lovely Rita, how the Beatles have made more memorable characters in tracks like Lady Madonna or Eleanor Rigby. He didn't specifically quote these songs, but I think that's what he was talking about, But then again, I don't really think that Lovely Rita is a type of track that is trying to tell you a story about a character. I think they just put a name on a romantic song and that's it. In my opinion, Lovely Rita is one of the cutest and most enjoyable tunes the Beatles have to offer, and I honestly think it's one of the highlights of the album. So I don't really understand why this whole character thing has that much, takes that much away from the track for Anthony. Another thing that was mentioned was, the lack of connection between the tracks. For example, the jump between With and Without You to When I'm 64. Even though I have said multiple times on this channel how much I fucking hate when they don't try to connect the songs together, when they don't try to actually make the album cohesive, I don't really think that's the case for Sgt. Pepper's. Actually, if you go into social media and you see people's opinion on this matter, you get nothing but praise on the diversity that Sgt. Pepper's offers and their ability to jump from one sound palette to the other without sacrificing the concept that the album has to offer. But honestly, I can understand someone that argues that With and Without You was not exactly placed properly onto the album. I think that this experimental phase in George Harrison's music career was weird, honestly, with songs like Love You Too and Revolver not matching the energy of that album either. I can totally understand someone that would argue that, the jump from the playful, cheerful tunes that Sgt. Pepper has to offer, even when you go full psychedelic with songs like Lucy in the Sky with Diamond, sound completely different from what, George was offering on these tracks. So again, even though I can see the problem you're talking about, I don't really feel like it's that big of a deal. Or it doesn't really change my mind when it comes to Sgt. Pepper's deserving a perfect score. Because when I look at the finished product, and what the album is and how I feel every time I listen to the record, I just can't help but feel like this album deserves a perfect score. And I'm not really saying that this album is not overrated. I've talked about this in the past in other videos. I do feel like a lot of people give Sgt. Pepper's way more credit than it deserves. I don't think it's the best Beatles album. No, I personally think that albums like Rubber Soul, Revolver, The White Album, and Abbey Road are better, and some of them way better than Sgt. Pepper's, 100%. But that doesn't mean that if asked the question, is Sgt. Pepper's a 10, I'm gonna say no, because yes, the album has its flaws, but it doesn't mean that it's not an impressive, fucking amazing album with some of the greatest songs ever, like A Day in the Life, like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, like Fixed in a Hole, for example, which is one of my favorite Beatles songs, like She's Leaving Home, like With a Little Help of My Friends, solely talking about the, what the album has to offer without the context, without the story, without looking at the year that it was released and how it influenced a whole generation of music, and it changed the way that not only fans but also media, and full-grown adults saw pop music. If you don't have all of that information, you can still listen to this album and be impressed, amazed, and just overflowing with joy because of the amazing level of quality and, the level of enjoyability this album has to offer. It's unique. I think it has a sound palette that even to this day, 50 years after it was released, few albums have. And because of that, I feel like even without the context, Sgt. Pepper's is a 10 out of 10, no questions asked. That'll be it for today's video, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any other videos that I upload. Please do remember that this is only my personal opinion, so if you have your own, go ahead and leave it down below in the comments. I'll be more than happy to check out your comment and give you my opinion on your opinion. So what are you waiting for? I know that a lot of people disagree with Anthony on his video, so I know that I'm not like the minority here. I know that most most people would agree that Sgt. Pepper's is a 10 out of 10. But still, I think that it's an interesting debate whatsoever, because it's kind of weird, that you can admit that an album that you consider perfect has more than a few flaws, so it's not perfect anymore. So how can it deserve a perfect rating? But if you listen to as much music as I do, you know that you can grab the album you love the most amazing piece of music in your opinion, and you'll still find flaws in it. So yeah, honestly, I think it's just based on your opinion and if you believe or not that the album deserves a 10. So I definitely want to know what you guys think about it. With that being said, once again, I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that I can see you guys soon with a new video. But until then, bye.